Please hold for the tone to join your conference.
CRM with more carrot and less stick. My name is Dion Mishler, and I'm the Inside Sales Manager for Neudesic and the moderator for this webcast. This webcast is presented by Nancy Emsley and Lou Carbone. Nancy is a practice manager with Neudesic's Dynamics practice and highly sought after for almost all of our Dynamics engagements. And Lou is the founder, president, and chief experience officer of Experience Engineering, a Minneapolis-based experience management firm. He's also the author of Clued In, How to Keep Customers Coming Back Again and Again. He has spent more than 2 decades in the development of experience value management theory and practice in a broad range of industries including travel, healthcare, retail, technology, financial services, manufacturing, and education. If everybody's logged in, you should be able to see the title slide that has today's webcast information up there. There was a brief introduction earlier regarding working within live meeting. Briefly recap. Again, all the attendees are muted. Is the best way to ask for assistance or ask a question. Use your feedback, the feedback or seating chart tool that's located in the upper right toolbar. And also, we will be holding questions until the end. Please use the Q&A functionality located in the upper left toolbar. Lastly, this webcast is being recorded and will be available via the Neudesic website. We will email you when the link is available. If everybody's ready, your seat should be green. And at this time, I'd like to turn our presentation over to Nancy Emsley. Nancy?
Thank you, Dion. I appreciate your introduction.
You bet.
At this point, I have launched a screen. It probably will take a second for everyone to refresh, so I'm just going to speak a little slowly until we have an indication that you're able to see it. What we're going to look at today is some of the more interesting features within CRM, specifically Microsoft Dynamics CRM. CRM in the past has had a reputation of failed implementations, usually predominantly due to user acceptance. And with any new solution that's being implemented throughout an organization, user acceptance is critical, but even more critical in a relationship management type environment where there's a large number of users, of diverse users. So implementing, let's say, an ERP solution, you have a very succinct subset user community, typically accounting, finance, distribution. With a CRM or relationship management solution, the user audience can be very diverse and very wide. Everyone from the CEO to the receptionist within an organization may be using the application. And when we get that diverse audience, oftentimes we get a lot of diverse requirements that go with that. Everyone has a little bit different angle of how they work, what works for them in an electronic environment. So we're going to take a look at some ideas on how you can really tailor a solution to meet the needs of that type of diverse audience. One of the things we're going to look at first today is just CRM in general, the Microsoft CRM solution. You should be able to see it now. Dion, I'm going to rely on you. Can you see the CRM screen?
Yes.
Great. If anyone else is having any difficulty seeing it, just go ahead and change your seat indicator that the presentation indicated how to do, and Dion mentioned, and she will help you out with that. The Microsoft CRM solution, one of the benefits, one of the carrots that we like to talk about is the fact that it resides right within Outlook. This is my Outlook. I have an inbox here. Just like any other Outlook system, I can have as many folders as I want within Outlook. So it's not necessarily a standalone system. It can be. It can also work right within a web browser. But in many organizations that are Microsoft-based, we find that the fact that this sits within Microsoft Office is highly beneficial, not only to the organization as a whole, to each and every end user, because 90-some% of users within an organization use email at some point during the day. So it's very friendly for them and intuitive for them to use. When the system's installed, really what it does is add a toolbar here at the top and a CRM menu item, and then it adds a series of folders, and this is really where we're going to spend a bit of our time. Now today won't be focused on a generic CRM demo. I want to show you some of the interesting things that you can add to a CRM implementation to make it more user-friendly and to make it more valuable to your user community. But just so you get an idea of what the generic system looks like, I'll take a very quick look at that, and then we'll show what you can do with all that data that you're accumulating. It's great to have a system that tracks your sales or your customer service or your patients if it's a hospital or healthcare, citizens if it's a public entity. There's really nothing that can't be tracked in CRM. It's all about relating information, relating data. But once you get all that information in there, if it doesn't provide value back to the end user community and the executive community, over time, it tends to be used less and less. So the real carrot in enticing users to access the system and use the system and rely on the system is the ability of the system to provide something back to the end user community as well. And that's what our focus today will be. But you'll see we have a series of folders. I'm just going to close them here so you get an idea of what types of information we're going to look at in our sample system here. But we had our inbox up above, just like normal, and we now have a series of folders that are CRM folders. And within each of those, they're subcategorized. So within sales, for instance, we might have leads, opportunities, our customers or accounts, competitors, contacts. So all of that information is categorized and subcategorized in a logical way for your organization. With this particular CRM solution, this is all very configurable, which also makes it enticing for your user community because you can add things like courses. In this particular example, courses were added for an educational institution. We can also track different pieces of information. So for instance, on an individual contact record, any fields can be added. They don't require development. This is something that can be done in configuration with the configuration toolkit. So any information over here, all the details, or any of the tabs and information on those tabs is completely configurable, making it very personable, very personalizable for your organization. Maybe you don't call customers customers. Perhaps you call them clients. And if that's a very important nomenclature for your organization, then it's important that your end users have the ability to interact with a system that works the same way that they do in the same terminology and nomenclature. So all of that's very easy to do within CRM. The navigation is also very important, how you look at records. Let me open this contact record up again. Where information is placed on the screen, the order of information, all of that is important to each individual, as well as each individual organization, as well as different user communities within the organization. So during the implementation process, it's very important to think about what types of layout makes the most sense for your particular organization and how the workflow process should flow. Another thing that's important is to be able to easily access the information you need when you need it, easily create follow-ups. So I can create a follow-up simply by clicking on this follow-up button, and an assistant over here, a form assistant on the right, will literally walk me through creating my follow-up activity, field by field. Once I create that, it's saved to my calendar and Outlook, and it's all in one place. If you're heavily dependent on PDAs like I am, it also will synchronize with your PDA. So all about making the system usable for your end users. So that's some of the generic Microsoft CRM features and functionality that are appealing to end users. All of that's great. It's all about making it easy for them to enter data, to access data. But one of the things that becomes important after they start entering this data is really having something come out of the system that's meaningful for them. So what we're going to look at now is more of the pretty carrot, the flashy, colored items that make people's jobs easier. And we're going to look at 3 different dashboards that have been created based on the data in the system. And I'll walk you through how users can literally access most of the data they need right from that dashboard as well, because it's fully embedded within the CRM solution. So first we're going to look at a sales rep. Actually, we'll look at 4. We'll look at a sales rep, we'll look at some marketing, sales executive, and then a corporate executive. And each of these dashboards are controlled by security. So what a user sees is dependent on their security level within the system. The first dashboard that I'm bringing up here is the sales representative dashboard. And what we've done to not only present visual cues to the salespeople and let them drill into information right from the dashboard, we've also combined the most common information that they might use in their day-to-day operations on this one screen. So not only do we have some web parts here that present very valuable information related to their quotas and their pipeline, 2 things that salespeople are always very concerned of, but we also have on this main page an area where they can work on their activities that are due, as well as go through their lead list without having to navigate to the other locations in the database that we looked at previously. So for instance, if I'm a salesperson and I want to look at my pipeline, you'll see here it's very visually appealing. It's segregated by sales cycle, where they are in the sales cycle, and we can see the dollar amounts associated with that. I can drill into that visualization as well and now see all of the opportunities that I am assigned to that make up that particular portion of the pipeline. And from within here, I can go one step further and actually drill right into any particular opportunity and work with that opportunity right from there. So if I have a follow-up activity I want to create, I can do it right from there. So we're able to give the users a very friendly interface, but they still can complete all of their work. Same thing over here with sales quotas. Here's their what's making up their sales quota, the revenue and the estimated close date. And over on the very far right here, we have the green light, red light visual cues as to where they are with respect to their quota, all on one page. So things that are important to a salesperson. Down below, while they're looking at their sales quota, they can also be looking at what activities they have due today or past due. Over here we have icons that are very user-friendly. They tell them exactly what they are. I have some phone calls here. I have some appointments. And I have some tasks. And these are standard Microsoft Office icons that are used throughout the Microsoft platform. So if your users are used to using any Microsoft Office products, they're going to understand what these items are without having to necessarily drill into them. I can, however, drill into the particular item and see the details associated with that item. So this is a task that I have due. I'm logged in as Darren, and it's regarding a particular lead, autumn car, and I need to make action on that. Over on the right, again, without leaving one screen, all information on one screen, easily accessible, we have their leads, the leads that they need to follow up on, and they can open those leads and create accomplish any actions right from within that main page. So that's what a sales rep, the day in the life of a sales rep might look at. Let's take a look at marketing. Traditionally, marketing personnel have slightly different responsibilities. They're interested in increasing revenue for the organization, but they're potentially looking at campaigns, running campaigns, getting leads in the door for salespeople, and then measuring the success or the ROI of each of those particular campaigns. So from a marketing perspective, we've accumulated a little different set of data on the marketing dashboard. Each of these dashboards, I should mention, these are just samples, so it really is about what makes sense for each of the different roles within your organization, what you would put on the particular dashboards. So here we have a marketing person looking at all the different sources for which they're generating leads, referrals, advertisements, the web, and a pie chart, a real-time pie chart that shows them where they are with those different lead sources. And sometimes on demo systems, I apologize, the database decides to shoot out here. That's simply because I'm running everything on one laptop, so I apologize for that. Over here we have campaign response rates. So we've sent out, the blue here indicates how many campaign invites or direct mail pieces, whatever type email, whatever type of campaign this is, how many have been sent and what our response rate is. So we're right at about a 50% response rate for this particular campaign, which would indicate a very favorable response rate for most organizations. Over here, we're looking at ROI, becoming more and more important as our economy tightens and tightens. As organizations spend money, marketing teams spend money, they want to understand very quickly where they're making money based on those particular investments. So just by looking at this one screen, I can look at phenomenal success with a couple of my different campaigns, and one campaign in particular that's doing very poorly. This information would give a marketing manager the ability to very, very quickly make some decisions on what to do with these particular campaigns. We might want to pull the plug on this one just based on the information we're seeing here on the dashboard. Same thing with metrics over here. How long is it taking to convert leads? What is our average ROI? Way above target. We're really doing well. Strong marketing team, clearly. However, we do have a lot of neglected leads. So again, metrics, ROI, response rates, and lead sources and outcomes all on one page without having to navigate and drill through the system. From there, we looked at a sales rep, a little different view. What's a sales executive? This might be a sales manager, a sales director. They're interested not only in what one person is doing, but what their entire team is doing. And they might want to look at a couple of different visual cues to determine. We saw the pipeline. This now is a cumulative pipeline across all of our salespeople. Over on the left-hand corner, we have another nice little feature, which is an integration to Virtual Earth, so that we can take all of our sales and geographically very easily plot them on a map. So rather than looking at individual data points, sales executive can open this up and see what their sales are in each of their individual regions without having to run a bunch of complicated reports. The mapping feature is a nice feature for visualization. Quotas we saw on the individual, this would just be a combined quota. So different ways to look at data, slice and dice data. And here I can look at all of my salespeople in one quick, dirty view and look at their year-to-date sales versus their quota, and a light structure here that tells me how they're doing against their quota. All of my salespeople are doing very well against their quota. Looks like we're going to have a very good year. So here's Here's a nice look without, again, having to run a report, export it to Excel, and overanalyze it. A nice thing with these individual pieces of information, we can also export them. So if a salesperson needs to, or a sales manager in this case, needs to create a presentation, guess what? They can just export each of these individual pieces of information to Excel and very quickly create their presentation. So no longer are they going to have to manually create a bunch of spreadsheets and then manually create a bunch of charts and pictures on those charts to create their sales presentations. They can do it very easily just by clicking on an arrow and exporting to Excel right from within here. Salespeople love that, by the way. And then finally, our final carrot, our most important carrot in some regards, executive dashboards. What pieces of information are most important to the high-level individuals within the organization? This could be information that's very secure, that's pulled from multiple systems. And in this case, we're pulling some of this information from CRM and we're combining it with information from our ERP system. So this allows a sales executive to come into their system, log into Outlook, which they're doing anyway, and click on their dashboard and have a scorecard presented that's pulling revenue information and pipeline information and marketing information from ERP and from CRM and combining them on one scorecard. So they don't have to have reports run out of multiple systems, have somebody combine that in Excel and try to make sense out of it. Not only is the data there, again, the visual cues. So before anyone even looks at the numbers, they're probably going to look at the right-hand side here and see these visual cues of information to determine what they want to look at. First thing I would probably look at is my forecast accuracy here. It's red. I'm off target. Something's going on with my forecasting. We're not doing a very good job. We are doing a very good job with our pipeline and our account-based opportunities. And we're doing pretty well with our revenue against target, although we're a little below target. So allows them to not have to think, not have to analyze quite as much. First, they can go in and look at visual cues. Then they can actually look at the numbers that mean the most to them or the most important to them. They have the opportunity to also look at some of these charts, look where they are first quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. I guess second quarter we just closed shop or something in this example. But we can look at where we are versus wins versus losses. First quarter, we did okay, 50-50. Third quarter, we won everything in the pipeline, which is fantastic. However, we didn't have a very big pipeline. In fourth quarter here, I can see not only do we have a fantastic pipeline, our win ratio is pretty darn good against our loss ratio. So information that's available just simply by looking at that dashboard. A couple more examples down here. We're just showing you different types of charts. Typically, different types of users favor different types of charts. Individual users favor different types of charts. So just to give you some examples of some of the different graphical presentations or representations that you can present. What they also might want to be able to do is filter some things on their own. So you'll see here we're looking at all of our product offerings, but maybe I just want to look at bikes and clothing. I don't want to look at everything. So the executive, any executive can learn how to click a couple of buttons, right? When I make that change, you'll notice all of my dashboards, all of my charts here on this dashboard change. My scorecard changed. Clothing and touring bikes are not doing nearly as well as some of the other products that we offer. And you can see that representation in all of the different charts that we're providing. We can also geographically segregate the information. We've only got USA in here, but this would also, if you have territories, give them the ability to slice and dice and look at territories in just the way that that particular executive might want to look at it. We talked about exporting to Excel. We can also export to PowerPoint. They might want to export to Excel so that they can modify the charts a little bit, add some information, add some text if they wanted to, move things around. Or we could just go ahead and export to PowerPoint. Let me show you what this would look like. There we go. So with a click of a button, this executive now has the information he needs, and he can export it right to PowerPoint as well. So very popular feature, very fun for them to use, and cuts down the time that it takes them to prepare their presentations dramatically. And anytime you can cut the workload of anyone in your organization, you're going to be a hero. So providing these kinds of extra tools for them where they can do things like slice and dice without having to call IT every time is a great feature. Providing them the capability to export to Excel, to export to PowerPoint will make everyone in the organization who uses the system very happy. So just to summarize, we have the interface that's very user-friendly sitting right within Outlook. We have the capability to add to our interface, to add fields, add forms, add tabs, add complete separate entities, and none of that requires a developer. System configurators can do that. And then the biggest carrot of all, this visualization, so providing information to users in a quick, pretty, intuitive interface where they themselves can drill into the information and also export the information to other formats for distribution or presentation. Makes their lives much, much easier, and will encourage them to continue to put information into the system because now they're getting value out of it when they need to do something like prepare a report or a presentation. So with that, I will turn it back over to you, Dion, and Lou for the other part of the presentation, which is informational on how to incorporate some of this into your organization.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Nancy. I love all that visual representation. It's so easy to look at stuff. I love it. So thank you very much for that. We will be having Lou Carbone join us at this point, and for those of you that are maneuvering through live meeting right now, you should have a video portion pop up, and you should all see Lou at this point. If you do not, let me know via the feedback tool or the Q&A section, but I would like to turn it over to Lou at this point. Lou?
Dion, thank you so much. It's indeed a pleasure to be with all of you today. And Nancy, your presentation was phenomenal in terms of being able to provide positive reasons why customers and end users find the value in carrots that are embedded in the programs that you demonstrated. The power of the work that you're doing and why it's so important is really because of a new order in business today, that we've moved from a world of primarily manufacturing and making and selling to a world where it's really important to begin to sense and respond. And in fact, businesses have become so complex today that it's very much like flying some aircraft where we actually manage the flight of an aircraft by wire. That some aircraft, some jet fighter planes are so complex that it's impossible for a human to fly them without technical assistance from computers, if you will. So I believe firmly that businesses are becoming so sophisticated in the need to sense and respond and adapt quickly that this representation of data in a way that helps us basically fly these complex organizations and become more effective at managing these organizations is critically important. We're moving from an era that was driven to a great deal by this whole ideal of functionality and framing our businesses around function versus the effect that we have. So when we begin to look at adaptation, it really becomes critical to understand how our customers, how our end users think. Now, whether that's a salesperson in a sales organization or even a front desk clerk at a hotel, how do we visualize the data? How do we create an experience for that end user, and how does it cause them to feel? Do they feel more effective in the work that they do? Do they feel more facilitated in terms of success in what they do? I think that's so important in moving forward the role of technology in supporting CRM. I think we've made huge advances in a short period of time from believing that it was all about data, and sending me a birthday card on my birthday was what CRM was all about. And I believe that that's what led to what I would call first-generation CRM questions. But as we begin to look at the future and the leading edge of carrots that are embedded in the experiences that we have that make those experiences more valuable to us, we know that the adaptation by using a stick has not worked. That unless we can prove the value of the technological support systems that we provide for salespeople and that we provide for customer interface is huge. And we know that studies that have been done that our thought process really is visual, that we don't think in terms of numbers and words. If we were to close our eyes and I asked you to think about the most relaxing day you've ever had, the words Bermuda don't come up, but the image of the beach. That we literally think in terms of images, and that's what's so powerful about some of the developments that Nancy shared with us today, and I think it's really exciting as we look at the forefront of what CRM can mean to our businesses in the future. And it's a pleasure to be able to participate in this today and see the demonstration and to be able to share some thoughts with you. And I'll be happy to answer any questions. But thank you very, very much, and really appreciate your time and honored to be with all of you today.
Great. Thank you very much, Lou. And it is definitely true. I think we're all aware that we're entering into a different phase of technology, or a different way to start utilizing the technology we do have. And again, thank you, Lou, and thank you, Nancy, very much. We do have a couple questions. One of them from before. Nancy, this was going to you that says, how were the dashboards created?
That's a great question, and I'm sorry I didn't answer that in the content of the presentation. We used a couple of different technologies to illustrate some of the flexibility with creating dashboards with Microsoft Dynamics CRM. Some of the dashboards were created using Performance Point, which is a very powerful tool that Microsoft now has available. Some of the other dashboards were used with some of the SQL analysis services technology and presented via Microsoft Office SharePoint Portal Server, or MOS. They could also be presented, the presentation layer could also be WSS, or Windows SharePoint Services, which is a free portal application that is included with Windows Server.
Okay. And please, as we go through some of these questions, if we do not answer your question appropriately or you have a follow-on question, please feel free to ask those as well. The other question that we had that says, are all of the dashboards that you are demoing dependent on the Analytics Accelerator add-on?
No, and in fact, none of the ones that we presented today used the Accelerator add-on. We have used that in the past to create dashboards and use the OLAP cubes that are included with that Accelerator and then extended them to include custom entities and attributes for each of the implementations. And it is a really great Accelerator, but these particular dashboards were not built using that Accelerator.
Okay. We have another CRM question that says, can users add and remove CRM components to help declutter their screen for their own specific needs?
That is a fantastic question. Absolutely. One of the pitfalls of demonstrating CRM is that we usually log in as the administrator so that we can demonstrate all the great features. But unfortunately, when we log into as an administrator, you do tend to see all the great features. There's a lot of different ways that we can filter out what a user sees and clean up their environment. The easiest is by using the role-based security within CRM. So within role-based security, we can determine exactly what each user has access to and therefore what they see when they log into the system. For instance, if I'm a user and I do not have access to customer service at all, I will not see any of that on my menu. So that's the easiest way. And then there are ways to further refine that. We can even determine which tabs a user sees. So for instance, when we were going through the first part of the demonstration, I showed a contact record. And that contact record had 4 or 5 tabs on it. You can display and hide those tabs using some simple JavaScripting based on the user login or the role of the user as well. You can also display and hide them based on other field selections. So a common way of doing that is, a good example is different account types might have different tabs because you might have different information for each account type. So a customer might have, let's say, a financial tab, whereas a account type that's a prospect may not. So you can show and hide even tabs in each individual record as well.
Very nice. It's always nice to have options.
Yes, and users don't want to see what they don't have access to. Nothing's more frustrating for a user than to click on something and then find out they don't have access to it.
Right, and it's like you said earlier, we want to make sure that we're being productive and giving some time back, and that's the next great thing that technology can do for us.
Exactly.
Lou, we have a question for you that says, what's a good first step to change? Looking at things from the customer backward and how does the customer feel? So what are some good first steps to kind of start that journey?
So I think that when we begin to look at first steps, it's really beginning to put yourself into the customer's shoes and understanding customers' emotional needs, the end user's emotional needs. What is it that they're trying to accomplish? What is it that they need to feel? And then how do we support that? That often we think about features and benefits from a product perspective in terms of whistles and bells, but when we begin to apply those, we really have to start from what is important to that particular individual. And that's, when you're looking, what's so magical about what we see is the same day for data, different users, and the ability to create distinctive experiences for those people and designing them from their perspective back. That most advertising or creative people are not data junkies, yet how do you begin to affect the way different people look at things? And I think that the ability to put it into a common language graphically that allows people to either dive deeply into something or understand it and then dive deeply, that there are folks that can actually look at a data set and not make sense out of it. So something that makes sense out of noise for those people is huge.
Okay. Well, and as you know, or maybe not, but Neudesic does have a group. We do have a user experience group that helps design an easier user interface. And I guess the next question for you would be, how might your work, the experience engineering, plug into interface design?
It is really built around helping an organization move to a greater understanding of the role of customer experience and understanding end-user experience, both in terms of the customer set that a company serves and how to best optimize systems to really create meaningful experiences that provide loyal customers that come back again and again and again, and how to use these systems to create distinguishable experiences, if you will. And the opportunity to really work with organizations along that journey and that understanding of optimizing the experiences that they create is the area that we work in.
Okay. We have another question that came up that says, first question pertaining to user access, how do I personalize what entities or modules to view? Nancy, I think that's for you.
Sure. I'm not sure if I fully understand the question, so please let us know if I don't answer it to your satisfaction. Within CRM, there is a user administration tool that allows the administrator to define exactly what each individual or each role or each team within the implementation sees. Then to further enhance that, you can add configurations or customizations to each of those different groups of entities. And when we talk about entities, we talk at the high level, starting with, say, sales, and then underneath sales, we have things like customers, contacts, products. Those are all individual entities. So we not only define what they see entity-wise, we define what they see data-wise within the entities. So as a salesperson, I might only see accounts that are in California. That might be my territory. So you can define down to that level and then customize and configure the screens based on that particular security parameter.
Okay. Yes, and I think that did it for the question. Perfect. I think the other question that's come up that says, what are the IT cost savings by implementing the correct CRM tool? So I think it's a two-part question, Nancy, from the what are the IT cost savings and what have you seen? And then Lou, perhaps you could speak to IT cost savings as it pertains to an increase in user experience or increase in productivity because people are happier, I guess is a good way to put it, about the system they're using.
Sure.
So, Nancy?
Okay. From an IT cost saving standpoint on the technical side, most of the infrastructure, all of the plumbing with the CRM solution is Microsoft plumbing. So for an IT shop that's already trained on Microsoft technologies such as Windows, Active Directory, SQL Server, the cost savings become quite evident because they don't need to be trained on the underlying foundation of the application. Additional cost savings come into play because much of the functionality that's traditionally dependent upon IT resources, things like creating workflows, writing reports, those tasks can now be distributed to business analysts or power users within the organization. The CRM tool that you saw today, the Dynamic CRM tool, includes a report writer that will allow an organization to have people outside of IT create anywhere from 50 to 80% of the reports that would be needed for the organization. So it's a huge cost savings from a report writing standpoint. Workflow, it also includes a visual design tool for creating workflows. So while you will not want every person in an organization writing workflows, or you'll have a tremendous strain on the hardware running all those workflows, you won't need IT people to create all your workflows for you. The visual tool will, again, allow a business analyst to take on much of that work, and really IT only needs to get involved when they have to be enhanced with some code, and there's a lot you can do with it. And then the third cost savings is in the administration of the system. Things like the security. Since the security is tied to Active Directory, it's much easier to maintain. It's much easier to add and remove users from the system, change roles for specific users. And the ongoing maintenance of the system is minimal. There's not a lot of day-to-day active IT administration and maintenance that's required for the system.
Nice. I love all of those very tangible cost savings. Lou, what are your thoughts?
Well, I would like to frame cost savings in terms of return on investment. That you can certainly see so many applications around greater efficiency that lead to cost savings. And getting the information that's important quicker, seeing what's important to me, being able to direct the business without going through layers and layers of trying to get to critical data to manage the business. There are incredible efficiencies and savings there, but I think you have to look at the overall effectiveness in addition to the direct cost savings. And when you begin to look at effectiveness, the opportunities are huge in terms of the return on investment. You've been getting people to participate in updating and keeping data live and fresh. It's the optimization of the systems and their ultimate impact and effect on customers that I think is absolutely incredible when you look at effectively deployed programs. I think that's very, very powerful. So in addition to the hard dollar cost savings, when you begin to look at the return on investment, it's huge.
Yes. Very nice. We have a follow-on question from one of our questions earlier. The follow-on question is, if you are looking to implement, and Nancy, I think this is for you, if you are looking to implement dashboard reporting on an existing CRM instance, would you recommend starting with the Analytics Accelerator and then extend to your requirements, or would you recommend building from ground up to your specific requirements? And then the second part, what are the benefits to using Analytics Accelerator from both a development and reporting capability perspective?
That's a great question in both questions, and it's going to depend on A, your existing implementation, and B, the requirements for the dashboard. So let me elaborate a little bit. From an existing implementation standpoint, first and foremost, I would say be on the current version if you're going to start embarking with Analytics Foundation or the Accelerator. Secondly, the Accelerator provides a great starting point if your system is not heavily customized. So the data cube that's going to be provided and the tools that are going to be provided really are a starting point when there's minimal customization and even minimal heavy-duty configuration. If your system has a lot of customization and a lot of configuration, it may be best to just start from the ground up because you'll end up investing a lot of time in modifying the sample code and the sample data cubes. But if your system is relatively vanilla, those samples that are provided are going to save you a lot of time in effort in creating the foundation for those dashboards, which really is the underlying data cubes. So that's the version is going to be a determining factor, as well as the level of complexity with your existing system today.
Okay. And again, let us know if that does or does not answer your question. Separate question. The question says, my question may be slightly off subject. However, is there an update or rollout coming for CRM 4.0?
Sorry, I was muted. They just issued a roll-up last week. Last week or the week before for CRM. It was either early last week or late the week before. One was issued, and if the person that asked that wants to provide their email address to you, Dion, we can link to it.
Okay. Be happy to send out that information. A couple last questions. I think, Nancy, these are always questions we hear from our clients, or Lou, I'm sure you heard this from your clients too. How much and how long does it take?
And we hear that, yeah, from day one. It's, of course, very relative to a lot of different factors. I'll start with how much. The CRM licensing is pretty favorably priced. There's 2 or 3 different options. The pricing is dependent on each organization's particular license agreement with Microsoft. So there's enterprise agreements, there's select agreements, and just about every other thing you can think of, because Microsoft, does have licensing complexities. You can estimate that it's going to be about, from a licensing standpoint, $1,000 per user and $5,000 for the server. And that's a pretty conservative estimate. Now, there are all different ways and that's to own the software. So there are different ways within that. They have financing going on. There's ways to spread payments over 2 and 3 years. So all different ways that way. Microsoft also now has their software as a service solution. You'll hear the term cloud computing used a lot. That is called CRM Online, and the pricing for that is subscription-based. It's a one-time setup fee to Microsoft of a whopping $75 total. And then the per month per user cost is anywhere from about $45 to $60, depending on some different features and the amount of data that you need to store on their servers. That's with it being hosted with Microsoft. There's also third-party partners who host, and they set their own pricing. So that's from a licensing standpoint. From an implementation standpoint, costs can be really all over the board and are very, very dependent on the individual requirements of each organization. We have done out of the box, no customization, no custom reports, very little even in configuration, out of the box implementations as quickly as, a few weeks. They can run anywhere from a few weeks to, a complex, large user base, highly customized implementation with integrations can take, 12 to 18 months. So it's a very big range depending on each individual organization and what their particular needs are.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you. Lou, we have a question for you, and it says, have you seen differences between internal software applications and website design?
Yes, considerably different. In fact, we do a language analysis that looks at the language that's being used, and what we find is that often customer-based language that's put on websites is not really in the customer's mindset. It's really done from the company out, and when we're talking about thinking customer-backed. And in some instances, we've even seen the degree of difference in the type of language used as high as in excess of 300% in terms of the difference between the way that customers would like to speak or be spoken to and the way that we speak to them in these website applications or in internal users. So there is a great difference in the selection of language, in the way that communications are done.
Okay. All right. Well, everybody, we are just a few minutes over our allotted time. Wanted to say thank you again to Lou and Nancy so much for your time today. We really appreciate it. And if you have any questions, my contact information is up on the screen right now. Next steps, we can come in and talk with you and your team and discuss with you and your organization how your organization could benefit from something like this. You can meet with your local Neudesic team. We have a couple different options. If you need additional information or have questions about today's webcast or would like to set up a time to meet with your local team, please feel free to reach out to me. You can email me or you can feel free to call me, whichever works easiest for everybody. Again, this webcast was recorded. We will send out the recorded version when it's available. And again, thank you very much, everybody. If you have any questions, like I said, please feel free to reach out. And thank you again to Lou and Nancy for your time today. It was a great presentation. We really appreciate it. And have a great rest of the day, everybody.
Thanks, Dion.
Thank you.
Thank you.